Welcome to lesson 99. In this lesson, we're going to create and interpret frequency tables. That means we're going to summarize the data in a set, and I'm going to use that data to create and understand what a histogram is. And this is just another way of showing or representing different data points in groups. And at the end of this lesson, I'm going to try to create a histogram and show you how you can create one of your own using the data in the data sets. And finally, we're going to determine the sample size and calculate percentages using that data. This is going to feel a little longer, so if you think you got it after the first example and you're ready to try, go and do that. And then you can use the second half of the video to check and see how accurate you are. All right, let's jump into frequency tables and histograms. We're going to learn a new way to represent data distribution, and this time it's going to be using a histogram. And we're also going to use a frequency table to help us out. So here's our first problem so you can get a sense of what a histogram is and how our table helps us create the shape of it. Nisha is really proud of her STEAM champs and bought new hats for all the kids in the program. Each hat is a custom fit. They measured the circumference of every kid's head in millimeters. Organize the measurement on a frequency table. Then create a histogram to represent the data. And I want you to watch how I create that histogram. Now, luckily, I've given us this data today and it's already in order. If it wasn't, and look at how much data we have. We have tons of numbers. If it wasn't in order, I would highly suggest, again, putting it in a spreadsheet so you can put it in order and help you out. I think that's a better use of your time, already using it in a frequency table, than sitting here and trying to organize all these numbers from least to greatest. Luckily, these are already in least to greatest. So let's look at the frequency table. And what this is doing is we're going to cluster the data based on these different sizes. So any size between 510 and 529 millimeters would be an extra small. So I'm going to identify that marker. So let's see, up to 529. So that stops right here. So how many kids are between 510 and 529? Just two. So I just make two dashes and just write the number 2. Now I'm going to look for 530 to 549. So 549 up right here. So this was the extra small. Here's the small. And I'm just going to count up all these numbers. And while I'm counting, I can just make a slash. So 531, 533. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You can make tallies, or you can just write the number, whichever one. Like I know some kids, if two of you are working together, one of you can read the numbers and one can make the tallies. And I'll just double check by counting again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Yep. So now I'm going to go from 550 to 569. Okay. So I'm going to stop it right there. Same thing, and so these are going to be our medium hats. Count it off. 1, 2, 3. Oops. I want to use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay. And again, it's helpful if you just work with a partner on this. Let's go to the next one, and it's going from 570 to 589. There we go, to 589, that would be large. And from 590 to 609, extra large hats. And then anything greater than 610 would be the extra large hats. All right, and just count them off. The last set, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's a nice bundle. 6, 7, 8, 9. All right, so just looking at this part, you can kind of get a sense of where most of your sizes are, and you can already see what our data is doing. It comes from just 2 and it really loops up, but it makes that nice bell curve. That's what we call it in data, where it starts low and then it gets higher in the middle and then comes right back down. But hit pause and jot this down into your notes. We're going to use this to make our histogram. I actually just put our little frequency table just on the side so we can just see the data. You should have it already in your notes. First thing I want to do for our histogram is give it a title, and I'm going to call this hat sizes. For STEAM champs. Okay, the next thing I'm going to want to do is I'm going to think about the ranges of our data and look at our highest number, which is 15, and think about our range. So if this is 0, can I count by ones to get to 15? Already by looking at it, doubtful. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So no, not by ones, but if I counted by twos, it would work. So I'm going to do that. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, and 18. So if you see a half measure, we know what it is. But I'm always checking using my maximum number. Now, the next thing I want to do is on the bottom, we're going to figure out the range. On the left side, this is my frequency. That's just telling us how many for each number. It's going to look like a whole bunch of bar graphs, like bars, except they're going to all touch together. And they're going to be in different bins. So on the bottom part are going to represent our head sizes, head measurements. And this is in millimeters, because that's the way we measured it. All right, so in our first one, it's going to go from 510, the small size was from 510 to 529. So we're going to write that number in there. Actually, I'm going to zoom in so we can see it a little easier. And I'm actually just going to put it right here. This is 510. And my next number is 530 was the next size. And so my first bar, my small size, was from 510 to 529, and those were only 2 students. So I'm going to use my highlighter, and I'm just going to make it go up to 2. Okay, because only 2 kids had that size. All right, so that's what I wanted you to see, that this number tells me this range. It goes from here to here. So that's the first one. And I'm going to use a different color for the next one. So the next size went from 530 to 549. So I'm going to put 530 to 550. And after that, it went to 570. Next was 590. And next was 610. Okay, and what would have been after that would be 630. So you're going to see all this data really nice and tight in these little boxes. So let's do the next one. And I'm just going to have them in different alternating colors. So the next size was a small, it went up to 8. You can see I just make another tower that goes up to 8. My next size is 15, so I have to go halfway. There you go. And the next one goes up to 9. So again, I'm going halfway. Here you go. And the next one is 4. And the last one is 2. All right, so here's my histogram. So things to know with a histogram, and I just want to make sure that you can see the lines. And we draw them. I'm going to just outline them nice and neat. And here's the bottom. So this is a histogram. It will look like different clusters. So these represent, like I said, like buckets. And it tells me in this bucket, it's everything that goes from 510 to just before this number 530. So this line represents 530. So everything in here is between 510 and 529. And that represented. The next set was from 530 to 549. And we had 8 kids there, so that's what I can see here. And then the next size went from 550 to 569, and so on and so on. I'm not going to write the whole thing because you have it in the other side of your notes, but I wanted you to actually see the buckets and what they represent. And so using this histogram, I could tell you the frequency for every number. I can look at the bar and figure out how many are in each bucket. That's what this does. Whereas the dot plot before, I would have had a dot for every single number. Here, if I have a wide range of numbers, I can just bucket them together and put them in 2 groups. So hit pause and jot this down, and we're going to keep practicing with histograms. Okay, we're going to create another frequency table and histogram for this data. In this case, we only have 16 different values, which is much easier than the last set. And this is about points scored. So we're going to have our buckets will be points. And we're going to have different ranges there. And over here, we're going to have our frequency on the other side. All right, let's bucket this data. I'm going to try ordering it from least to greatest. So we have 6, 9, 11, 13, and 13. Let me stop and just mark off the ones I've used. 6, 9, 11, 13, and 13. Just so I can see what numbers I've already used. 14, 15, 17, 18. So 14, 15, 17, 18. Okay, and here's our last set, 19, 21, and 24. Awesome. Now we want to create very even groupings for this. So let's think about the buckets that we can actually use. What if we bucketed them in sets of 3s? Actually, let's go in sets of 4s because you can see our numbers go all the way to 24. So what if we went from 0 5, and so this bucket over here would represent 0 to 4. All right, so how many numbers go from 0 to 4? How many go from 5 to 8, from 9 to 12, from 13 to 16, from 17 to 20, and from 21 to 24. So those are my buckets. So let's count it out. Let's start with the first one. How many go from 0 to 4? 0. How many go from 5 to 8? And I'm just gonna, just one goes from 5 to 8. How many go from 9 to 12? 2. How many go from 13 to 16? 4. From 17 to 20, that's 3. and from 21 to 24, 2. So these are my buckets, and I just went by 4s. Another way you could have gone by 6s, but I just wanted to spread out the data a little bit. So I'm going to use these first numbers. So notice 1, I'm going to use the 0 to 5, 9, 13, 17, and 21. And the next one would be 25, which is the next big number. All right, and now I'm just going to fill in my buckets. Let's look at our numbers here and see if we can count by ones. My biggest frequency is 4, so does it work by ones? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes. Perfect. So now let's just start drawing in. I have nothing in the first set. Let's go to 5 to 8. I have 1. In the second set, I have 2. So it's the same line. In the third set, it goes to 4. In the next set, 3. And the last one is 2. So you can see all my groupings. I like to color them in. It just helps me to visually see my data. I like using a highlighter. You don't have to do this, but it helps. And you can see the data distribution in our data buckets. So it makes a nice bell curve where the data starts low, it jumps up in the middle, and then goes back down again. So let's hit pause just so you can draw this out. And again, remember, these are actually touching together. Okay, so let's list some noticings about the data. So the first thing I notice is the largest group scores between 13 and 16 points. I also noticed the shape is similar to a bell curve. And we can see that how it goes up and back down again. Pretty symmetrical. What else do I know is a fact by looking? No one scored less than 5 points. So that's important to know. And try and think, what other data can we see here? I could also count out the number just from the frequency. There are 16 data points. Again, know that just by counting off all the numbers, if you added them all up from our frequency table, you would get 16. So that's it for now, Math Marbles. You're going to get more opportunities to practice drawing a histogram. Just remember, it is how you decide to bucket the data, but these must be evenly distributed. So you can't have one bucket that goes from 0 to 1 and another one that goes from 9 to 50. So they have to be even. And make sure that this bucket in here, this is telling you from 5 to 8. The next number 9 is for the next bucket. So that's what's giving you there. And make sure you are labeling. So great graphs have a title, a label. So in this case, it was points and frequency. I made sure my scale was correct as well. And then I accurately used my frequency table. Get some practice in, and I will see you in the next lesson. Be well.